Hello everybody, my name is Ferrothorn 323 and welcome to my next top 10 list. Last time we covered my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time, and today we're going to go the opposite direction and talk about my all-time least favorites. Now, just like the last list, there are some things I will discuss. For starters, we have the rules. No legendaries, no shinies, and no mega forms, because per your request they may or may not get their own list eventually. Also, again, these are just my opinions. I'm very sorry if your favorites are on the list somewhere. I don't know what else to tell you, but if you want to express your opinions, feel free to do so in the comments below. Also, while I'm not judging these based off how I use them competitively, I will be judging some of them based off how people use them competitively against me. So with that all out of the way, let's move on to number 10. These two. Now I know some of you might consider this a bit of a cheat because I'm putting two Pokemon here on the same spot in the list, but guess what? They're the same thing. But that's not necessarily why I put them here. I put them here because they were the first Pokemon to signify that we'd be getting a Pikachu ripoff of an electric rodent every single generation after it. Although the generation before it wasn't too bad. The only candidates we had for that were Marill and Pichu. Marill was a water type, so he's not really a ripoff. And then Pichu actually turns into Pikachu, so he's not necessarily a ripoff either. But then these two came along and started the whole trend. With Generation 3, it was Plusle and Minun, like you see here. Generation 4 had Pachirisu, Generation 5 had Emolga, and Generation 6 has Dedenne. So who knows what Generation 7 electric rodent we might get. Anyways, before I keep ranting on about this, let's move on to number 9. Chata. Now there isn't necessarily anything wrong with this thing appearance-wise. He actually looks kinda cool. You got the color scheme, which is pretty awesome, and you've also got the musical note for a head. Makes sense since he's a parrot, he likes sounds and music. But what lands him on this list is how annoying he freaking sounds, plus a unique move he has, which I'll explain. Chata has a unique move known as Chatter, which has some interesting effects on the opponent it is used on. However, it used to also have an extra mechanic that was banned. You used to be able to record any sound you want, and then when Chata used the move, that sound would emit. However, people abused this opportunity and did some really nasty things with it, so they had to take that mechanic out. An annoying bird with an annoying move that I used to have to deal with. Okay, never mind, let's just move on to number 8. Graveler. No Generation 1, you're not being excluded just because the original generation. Anyways, Graveler was a pain in the butt to face in wild encounters, especially in the more recent games. This is mainly because he has an ability called Sturdy, which keeps him from being knocked out in one hit, and then he uses a move like Explosion or Self-Destruct, which, while killing himself, also does massive amounts of damage to his opponent. This would frustrate me because every time he does that and knocks out one of my Pokemon, I'd have to walk all the way back to his center just to heal it. That's pretty much exactly why I hate him. And with that, let's move on to number 7. Garchomp. I know it's probably weird to have a Pokemon like Garchomp on somebody's dislikes list, but I have a really good reason for this. Garchomp is on here because of one trainer in the entire series, and that trainer is a Sinnoh League champion, Cynthia. Now, with the story, I had gotten back into Gen 4, I got to the Elite Four, and then I beat them and faced Cynthia. I was beating most of her Pokemon and I was feeling quite proud. And then Garchomp takes the stage and left me in shambles. It took months for me to beat this thing, and that's pretty much why I hate it. With that, number 6. Shedinja. Now I know I said I like ninjas in the last one, but this one is an exception, and it has a story. In Gen 4 there's an area called the Battle Hall, where you take one Pokemon with you to face one Pokemon of one type in 4 rounds straight, and if you lose once, you go back to the beginning. I was one battle away from facing the leader, and it was a ghost type. And that's when this thing showed up. This one ended my streak right quick, and I could not stand it because it only has 1 HP, so you'd think anything would kill it. However, that's not that simple, because it has an ability known as Wonder Guard, which is an ability that means only fire, flying, rock, or any super effective moves can kill it, and nothing else. That's when I had Empoleon with me, which didn't have any super effective type moves on it at all, so I was hoping to outlast it in moveset amount. But I didn't, and because of Shedinja, I had to start all over again, and that's why I hate it. Let's just move on to number 5. Ferrothorn. But besides the fact that it looks really weird, Ferrothorn is a nightmare for me to face in competitive battling. Mainly because it usually has ability Iron Barbs and an item Rocky Helmet all the time. These two things mean that every time you hit it physically, you will lose a lot of health. So really the only thing you come at this way is fire type special attacks, or non-physical. But I never had one of those, so that every time I saw one of these, I'd almost consider quitting, because I could never beat it otherwise. That's why I hate it. Let's move on to number 4. Pretty much every single bug type except for these two, because I can't stand bugs. They're one of the things I'm afraid of, especially bees, because of the way they sound and they look. I really hate bugs, and that's why I hate these guys. Okay, number 3, Venomoth, because it's a bug type, and it was really annoying to face it in Koga's gym, because I couldn't beat it as a kid unless I got really, really strong. With that being said, let's just move on to number 2. Rotom, or, to be more specific, his wash form. Now, for those who don't understand what is going on, let me fill you in. Rotom has the ability to absorb himself into various appliances to change his type and ability at the same time. Normally, he's an electric ghost like you see in the middle, but going clockwise, he can become a fan, making him electric flying, a washing machine, making him electric water, a mower, making him electric grass, a microwave, making him electric fire, and a freezer, making him electric ice. But this thing is the worst of the 5. Or 6, technically. Why, the reason for that is because he only has one weakness, and that's grass. And I never know how to take this thing down properly. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let a fellow YouTuber take this part for me. Dookie Shed?
This thing is the definition of cheap. You can't bring in a physical sweeper on it because it'll just burn it. Fire types are immune to that shit, but it's a water type, so you'd never switch into one. It has Levitate, which negates one of its weaknesses, leaving it weak to only Grass, which is one of the more uncommon attack types. It has a lot of options as far as EV spreads go, so you never know from what angle you need to take it down.
Thanks, man. That was really helpful. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for us to go to our infamous dishonorable mentions. These are the ones that barely didn't get on the list, but I figured were bad enough that I could take at least a little bit of time to express how much I hate them. The first one is Cradily, a weird-looking plant monster thing that I cannot stand fighting, because it always seems to beat me. Next one is Unknown. Pretty much a useless Pokemon because it learns only one move, and it's not even a good move. The next one is Magikarp. Do I even need to explain this one? No? Good, okay. Well, next one is Abra. A pain in the butt to catch and train because at first it only has one move that isn't even an attack, and it only uses it to escape. The next one is Love Disc, a heart-shaped fish, which I swear to God is only there to take up some space. The next one is Dunsparce, a derpy-looking thing that I can't even describe, that I can't stand because of how weird it is. Last one is Blissey. With its high amounts of HP and healing moves, this thing is nigh unstoppable to face in competitive battling. Alright, we've gotten to the moment you've all been waiting for. And now it's... number 1! Now some of you are probably wondering, what Pokemon could possibly beat every single one of those? Well, I will tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, freaking Zubat! Zubat has been one of my least favorite Pokemon pretty much since day 1. And for those of you who played the older games, like Red, Blue, Yellow, or Green, you can probably guess why. Back in those days, there were a couple caves that you had to go through, just like nowadays, except there was a catch. You pretty much had no money for max repels, so you had to endure every single wild encounter, and you were lucky if you went even 5 steps without encountering one of these little idiots 99% of the time. In fact, I stopped playing Yellow version for weeks on end because I did not want to have to put up with this. I was really frustrated with it. They were so frequent, and I could not take it for any longer, and that is why Zubat has been my least favorite Pokemon of all time. Well, that just about does it, so thank you guys, everybody, so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, as it would really help me out, and feel free to let me know what top 10s you'd like to see next. Speaking of which, at the very end of this video, I'm going to be releasing a sneak peek as to what my next top 10 will be. So please stick around until the very, very end of this video to find out exactly what that next top 10 is, or at least a sneak peek of it, because it may not be what you think. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and as always, brace yourselves. For the next video, the storm is coming. Silverstorm out. Next time on Silverstorm 323's Top 10 list.